Okay, and hello and welcome back to the show. I'm Diedrikson, I'm 15 years old, and today I'm interviewing Mr. Cary Harrison.
Did you say you were 50 years old?
No, 15 years old.
Ah, 1-5.
1-5, yeah.
I was going to say you must moisturize.
Thank you. Now, to the question. As we know, Cary is an American, and currently there are some very interesting political situations going on in America. Now, tell us, as an American, how has this affected you?
Well, it's interesting. So I would answer it. I'm answering it to a Swiss. So you live in a neutral country. You
Yeah,
have really one of the greatest democracies that anyone has ever seen. And you don't seem to have these exact problems that we have in the United States. So we'll just set
yeah.
that stage. We have what has never happened in U.S. history before. My ancestors are founding fathers.
Oh, really?
Yes, we came over from England to help start the country back in the 1600s. Um, we were naughty, I'll admit, because we came on behalf of the king and he was naughty. And we later had our revolution and said goodbye to the king, and we became, we thought, hopefully less naughty. And now we're sort of back in a place where it feels like we have somebody who wants to be a king again. And half the country thinks that's great. And the other half is like, well, I don't know. And to be careful not to be too specific or political, I would say it is probably the most difficult time we have ever had in our nation right now.
And why would you say that now at this specific time these problems have occurred and not at any other given point?
Very good question. We've been through civil wars. We've been through depressions, which were worldwide. You have too. We only in recent times, like your parents' times or grandparents'
Mm.
times, could many of our people suddenly begin to vote if they were what we call African American or Black Indians. So only in recent memory. So these were big moves forward. Many of those moves are being moved backwards.
Yeah.
So we have courts and judges that have now been put into place that fit one of the candidates very well. And so the courts, we like to say they're packed, the courts are packed, and they favor a certain political appetite, which may not reflect the whole country or the laws that many of us got used to. Our women have always, in the last 50 years, been able to enjoy owning their own bodies.
Mm.
Like, imagine a woman saying,
Yeah.
I own my own body. It seems reasonable.
Yep.
So now they can't. And so that's difficult for half the population, the human population. And this is sort of the beginning. There is something called Project 2025, which is on the internet. The Guardian has done extraordinary research to make it very easy to understand. And it lays out the future in America if it ends up in November, which is when our elections are, if it ends up in a way where some people don't want it, it will look a lot like Germany in 1937, believe it or not.
Do you
And we
believe?
don't speak German.
Yeah. Do you believe one of the problems are that there's only two political parties? Like in Switzerland, we have five major ones. You believe maybe that's an issue that causes the people to be split?
Yes, it's a giant issue. Back in the 1920s in the United States, we had socialists. Can you imagine? We had a communist party. If you can imagine, I mean, this is a big deal for us. Like
Yeah.
today, it's like you wouldn't even say the word and get away with it. Um, we tried to have a little green party. It went away in 5 minutes. Um, because our laws are now built that you're only allowed to have two parties. That's it, by law. You can have Republicans and Democrats. So within a party, let's say the Democratic Party, you can have part of that party is very interested in climate change and the environment. Part of it is interested in civil rights, freedom of speech, things like that. Part of it is interested in something else. In our Republican Party, which is just sort of another flavor, uh, many the parties are essentially the same in a lot
Yeah.
of ways. But in the Republican Party, they enjoy something that the Democrats don't do. The Democrats really actually passionately care about a lot of different things. The Republicans are more focused on three things: guns, beer, and Jesus. It's very easy.
Yeah.
So you sort of have a thinking party and then you have a believing party. So that's kind of where we are today.
So just that I got this right, there used to be more political parties than there are now.
Yeah.
And now they've just vanished.
And here's the reason, because I know what your next question is. How did it get this way? That was your next question.
Exactly.
We have uniquely what most countries do not, because it would be illegal, especially in Switzerland. So in the United States, you're a senator.
Yep.
I can walk up to you with a bag of diamonds, $1 billion of a bag of diamonds. Can I hand it to you directly? No. But your assistant standing right there, I can hand them the bag of diamonds and then they can hand it to you. That's legal. So it's corruption.
Yes.
But we separate it by 1 degree so that it makes it legal. And that happened when our Supreme Court passed a law about 5 or 6, 7 years ago called Citizens United. And that took the really beautiful things that we enjoy in our country, that you enjoy in Europe and in Switzerland, like freedom of speech. That's our first amendment, freedom of speech. And the Supreme Court decided that corporations like Nestle or Migros was a human being. Did you know that?
No.
Migros is a human being.
According to America,
Migros is a human being. And therefore, Migros can have a gun and it has free speech.
Yeah.
Yes. And so how does a corporation like Migros use speech? It doesn't really have a voice, doesn't have a mouth, although with AI, soon it might. So it uses money as its speech. So it can hand you, Senator Diedrikson, it can hand you 20 million francs to your political action committee, which is basically unlimited, the amount of money I can throw at your political action committee, and then it's like a bank account.
Yep.
And then you can take the money out of that and use it for your campaign. Any way you want. Maybe you need an airplane. Do you need an airplane?
Yeah.
Yacht?
Probably.
Okay. There it is.
And how do you feel that America can get out of this situation that it is in right now? Do you think there is still hope for it to kind of save itself?
Yeah. There's always hope.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't see it, but every impossible situation has always been solved over time, and it may take time. For us, probably the easiest thing would be to take the money out of politics. We didn't always have cash flying around. I mean, it used to be called corruption. It used to be called illegal. I'll give you an example, a little historical example. You guys use the word lobbying. Do you use that in German?
Not really in German, but
you know the word.
Yes.
So if somebody lobbies for something, I'll tell you where that came from. In the Capitol building, where our Senate and our Congress meet, there is a cloakroom, back when people used to wear cloaks.
Yeah.
And in the cloakroom is a lobby. So you're the head of Nestle, and you sit in the lobby and you wait for the senator to come out, and you can talk to him. You can say, I'm Nestle, and I want to own the water supply of half the United States, and we're going to put it in bottles, and we're going to sell it all over the world. And the senator says, that's great. I live in a state, we've got a whole river, the Colorado River. It brings down 100 million gallons a second. Think of all that unlimited water, free.
Yeah.
You can have it. And you say, well, thank you, Senator. You're running again for senator, and how would you like a little contribution? Oh, $300 million. Well, that would be very helpful. And so there it is. And so that's where lobbying, and it came almost 200 years ago. People would sit in the lobby and wait for their senators to come out and talk to them and cut deals. Now, why would you not do it in the senator's office? Because in the senator's office, his secretary is there. There's other witnesses there, so I can't talk to you about this stuff. So, all this water, and you guys make water, and plastic bottles, and you can't do that. So you do it in the lobby where there's no witnesses. That's where the term lobbying comes from. So really, if we take the money out of American politics, where we have to go back to actually doing the work because it's honorable and honest and it serves the people, I think we could have a great outcome. And I think many Americans are now on to, we have to get the money out, because you literally now purchase the White House.
Yeah.
you purchase it. Like if you put in $800-900 million, it's yours. So that doesn't help the guy who doesn't have anything, because he doesn't get to contribute. Yeah.
So you're saying there's kind of a bigger gap growing between the people that can pay and the White House and get their way, and the people that cannot pay the White House and get their own way.
Yes. So people generally without much money will throw in $5 or $10, which is a lot of money to them.
Yeah.
That could be the food that they have for dinner. But they get seduced by a lot of propaganda. They get these emotional slogans over and over and over again. And so they feel like they want to do something. Like if their $10 is literally going to change the world and they're going to have a great job and they're going to go to heaven and whatever, it's worth $10. So that's a lot of that money comes from poor people. They fund the rich people. Because the rich people own what you're on right now, the media.
Yeah.
It's not owned by people with no money. It's owned by people with money and influence. So right now, if you wanted to give a bad message and give it over and over again, whoever's listening to that and hears it multiple times, they're going to believe it. Because maybe there's no other message that says anything different. You see the power of it?
They can influence the way
Yes.
that the people think.
Right. Yeah. Like if a Kardashian starts using a certain kind of lipstick, let's say it's the color of this green screen. It's Dayglow green. It's a horrible color. But Kim Kardashian starts wearing it every day for a month. Do you know how many they'll sell?
Everybody will start wearing.
Absolutely. And everyone will be walking around with Dayglow lipstick. And somebody will have made, probably a Kardashians, will have made millions of dollars just because we saw that image over and over again.
Yeah.
And that's the nature of advertising.
Do you think media should pull away from the politics? Or do you think it's a good thing to have it mixed? It's just been used the wrong way.
Such a good question. Don't you love it when people say to you, it's such a good question?
Yeah.
As opposed to, that's a bad question. So in the United States, Thomas Jefferson, one of our founding fathers, and a man whose name many people know, a very smart and intuitive guy, he felt that the health of a democracy depended on the free flow and free access to information. And that because we had had a king before, remember, whatever the king says, that's it.
Yeah.
There's no like democracy. Oh, well, I disagree. If you disagree with the king, what happens? Your head falls off. Suddenly it just falls off and rolls down the street.
Yeah.
It's very painful, apparently, and messy. So he realized that for a democracy to work, you had to have a free flow of information that was unimpeded or not able to be stopped by any one particular organization, whether it be a government or a king or a corporation. And so that you had to have multiple things. And the job of journalists, they weren't really called that back then. They certainly weren't called reporters. But that was their job, was to watch and tell people what was happening in the government. Because if you're a farmer, which Switzerland, population 8+ million people.
Yeah, I think we've reached 9 million now.
9 million.
Yeah.
Woohoo! Okay. A population of 9 million, you've got a giant percentage of people actually farming still.
Yeah, you can see them
Everywhere.
everywhere.
Okay.
10 million.
Yes. 10 million. We're up to 10 million?
Up to 10 million.
So our director in the back, and how old are you?
14.
14. A 14-year-old director and the associate director?
Yeah,
Also 14. So they just corrected us. We're up to 10 million people in Switzerland. And literally outside this studio at this sophisticated school, Institut, Montana, there are cows grazing.
Yep.
Because it's part of your culture. And I'm trying to remember what we were talking about, where we're talking about
The king in England.
Thomas Jefferson.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. So how is a farmer going to know what's happening with the government? Because there's no television back then. This is the 1700s in the United States, 1700s here in Europe. No television. There are newspapers, but it's not every day. Maybe it's once a month, or I don't know how they bring it up here, by cow. I mean, maybe it's every 6 months. So whoever that journalist is or that reporter is literally responsible for all the information you would need to know to survive. Your taxes, the decisions that were made that are going to affect your life and your future. I mean, what if they said sheep are illegal and you have sheep up there? At some point, somebody's going to come up and either arrest you or you have to pay a fine. So this is how you would find out. And so this was the idea of having this open journalism with nobody being able to stop you and having the freedom of speech to tell the truth, even if the government doesn't like it.
And that was one of America's main principles.
Yes, that's right.
Or is one of America's main principles, yeah.
And now we've translated that into it means money.
Yeah.
So the more money you can roll down the hill, the better your freedom of speech is. And then the louder.
So thank you, Mr. Cary Harrison, for your time today. And my name is Diedrikson. I'm coming live from Institut Montana Zuckerberg. And see you later.